In this lesson, we're going to learn our first step to factoring, which is to factor out a GCF, or the greatest common factor. So a GCF is just is our greatest common factor. It's the biggest number and the biggest variable that we can divide all terms in our polynomial by. Okay, factoring out a GCF is always the first step to factoring, and so we're looking for a number that we can divide everything by, and we can see how many x's or how many y's we can take out of each of our terms. So we're going to look at a couple of examples here. For this first one, 50 x cubed plus 25x squared. So let's break this up piece by piece. Let's factor out a number and factor out a variable. So when I look at these two numbers, 50 I can say can be separated into 25 times 2, right? And then this 25 can be separated into 25 times 1. And so now what we can do is we can cancel out both of these 25s. And when we cancel something out, we're going to make that part of our GCF. So we're going to divide all of our terms by 25. And we can do the same thing with our x's now. We talked about in a previous video, x cubed is just x times x. So we can take this x cubed and separate it into 3 different x's. Same with this x squared, we can separate it into 2 x's. And so now we can cancel out 1, 1 and 2, 2 from each side. And so since I canceled out 2 x's, we're going to say x squared is part of our GCF. So now our GCF is 25x squared. And so when we factor, we're just going to divide all of our terms by that. So inside some parentheses now, we're multiplying this term right here by whatever we have left. And since we did all this canceling up here, it makes it really easy to see what we're left with. For this first term, all I'm left with is a 2 and an x. So this would be 2x. Plus, over here, we're not left with any number. We just have a 1 here. And no x's either. So I can just say plus 1. And so this is my factored GCF. We can look at another example now. Sometimes we're going to have the number and the variable, but sometimes we may just have a variable and sometimes we may just have a number. So let's look at this next example. Let's look at our numbers first. 3 can be factored into 3 times 1. And if we're trying to get something that we can divide all of our terms by, we're thinking trying to get things in terms of 3. So 12 can be separated into 3 times 4. And 25, we can't divide 25 by 3, and we can't divide 3 by anything else. So 3 times nothing is not going to get us to 25, okay? So there's nothing from our numbers that I can cancel out in every single term. So now let's look at our variables. We can separate x cubed, again, into x squared into 2 x's, and then here we just have 1x. And now I see I can take away an x from each of my 3 terms. So my GCF in this case is just going to be an x. There's no number with it because we can't divide all of our terms by a number, but we can take an x out of each of these terms. And so now when we do that, let's see what we're left with. Well, here it was just 3 times 1, which is just 3, and we were left with 2 x's. So I can say x squared. Now here, 3 times 4 gets us 12, so I'll write plus 12. And here I'm just left with 1x, so we can make this term 12x. And then here we've just got negative 25, and we canceled out that x. So here is my factored polynomial now. And now for this last one, let's look at our numbers first. So for my numbers, 2 can be separated into 2 times 1. My negative 16 can be separated into 2 times 8. And my 18 can be separated into 2 times 9. So I see a GCF here that I can cancel. All of these terms have a 2 with them. So 2 is going to be part of my GCF. And so now when I come and look at variables, I've got x to the 4, I've got x squared. So we can do this if we want. This time we're going to have 4x's, and here we're going to have 2x's. But I don't have any x's attached to this 18. So I can't cancel out x's from all of these terms since this 18 doesn't have anything. So all I have is this 2 for my GCF. And so now let's divide everything by that 2. When I divide this first term by 2, I'm just left with 1, and then 4 x's. So I have 1 x to the 4. When I take out a 2 from the 16, I'm left with negative 8, and then these x's. So we get negative 8x squared. And then when I take a 2 out of this 18, I'm left with negative 9. So I just get minus 9. So this would be my factored polynomial. So to summarize how we factor out a GCF from a polynomial, we're just looking for the biggest number that we can divide everything by and the biggest variable that we can divide everything by. Once you do that, divide everything, cancel out, see what you're left with, and so then you're going to write your GCF, multiply it to whatever is left after you are done canceling out and dividing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.